So, imagine this. You travel 1,200 miles from the sweltering heat of Phoenix to the bitter, just bone-chilling cold of a Montana winter.
Oh, brutal transition.
Right. And you're there to clean out the cabin of your recently deceased estranged father.
Yeah, which is heavy enough on its own.
Exactly. Now you walk in expecting maybe some dusty furniture, a few old fishing poles, like the usual remnants of a quiet life. But instead, you are hit with a full-blown hoarding situation.
Just chaos.
Complete chaos. Floor to ceiling, stacks of boxes filled with nothing but empty Campbell's soup cans. Bizarre, cryptic lists written on diner napkins.
It's so unsettling.
It is. But, I mean, that's not even the most terrifying part, because as you're sorting through this psychological wreckage, completely isolated from the outside world, you realize you are the target of a masked stalker.
Oh, yeah.
And a deadly historical treasure hunt.
It is the ultimate treasure cooker. I mean, you are trapped by the weather, trapped by your family's unresolved history, and literally trapped by a killer who is always, one step ahead of you.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are heading straight into the frozen heart of Dalton, Montana, using the source material from Devney Perry's novel, Bluebird Gold.
Such a great read.
So good. If you're a fan of the book, you already know the basic setup. We've got Ilsa Poe, the grieving daughter, Ike Bluebird Poe, the eccentric father, and Cosi Raynes, the very skeptical local sheriff.
Yeah, the classic small-town sheriff.
Right. But our mission today isn't just to recap what happens. We are going to deconstruct how this story actually works. We want to unpack how the author masterfully layers a historical gold rush mystery over a modern-day romantic suspense.
And how she weaponizes those themes, right?
Yes.
Like the profound isolation, the crushing grief.
Yes, and the suffocating small-town secrets. It just builds this relentless tension. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, I think we have to start with the environment. Because to truly understand the sheer terror of Ilsa's situation, we have to look at the mechanics of her physical and emotional isolation.
Yeah, the setting is just brutal.
It really is. The author doesn't just put Ilsa in a cabin. She traps her in a frozen wasteland, both literally and figuratively. I mean, when we look at thrillers, isolating the protagonist is step one. But here, the isolation is just aggressively multi-layered.
Let's talk about the physical space first, actually, because I want to look closely at the state of Ike's cabin. It's not just messy, it's disturbingly methodical.
Right, there's a weird logic to it.
Exactly. There are these narrow, claustrophobic paths carved through boxes that are stacked all the way to the ceiling. And inside those boxes, perfectly folded white t-shirts, meticulously paired socks.
And then the mountains of empty tomato soup and corn cans.
Yes. Not to mention those napkins with the hyper-specific, mundane lists. Stuff like, buy oranges, mow lawn, change oil, write Ilsa's letter.
Which is such a brilliant narrative tool for characterization. I mean, those lists aren't just quirky character traits.
Yeah.
In the context of the story's psychology, they are the physical manifestation of a deteriorating mind.
Just desperately trying to maintain control.
Precisely. When someone experiences a profound trauma, and we soon learn Ike lost his secret girlfriend, Donnie, to a sudden heart attack, they often try to exert control over their immediate environment.
Right, because Ike was actually packing up his life to move with Donnie.
Yeah, and when she died, he just stopped. He couldn't move forward, but he couldn't unpack either. He just lived inside the boxes. And Ilsa is suddenly confronted with this crushing reality.
It's kind of like an archaeological dig, but in reverse. Normally, you dig through dirt to find something valuable. Here, Ilsa is digging through a literal mountain of garbage.
The soup cans, the obsessive lists.
Yeah, all of it, just to uncover her father's degrading mental state. Every layer of trash she removes is a different epoch of his grief. And the guilt she feels is palpable because she ignored his final plea to visit the summer before he died.
That guilt is such a heavy anchor for her.
It really is. But I have to push back on the initial premise the town accepts. The police, including Sheriff Cosi Raynes, claim Ike's death was just a simple accident.
Right, that he slipped in his boat, hit his head, and drowned.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this chaotic, paranoid environment, and I'm wondering, is it really just a clumsy accident?
Well, and that cognitive dissonance is exactly what the author wants to trigger in you. You are experiencing Ilsa's skepticism firsthand. The environment completely contradicts the official narrative.
Oh, 100%.
And notice how the author strips away Ilsa's external reality checks. Her best friend Troy, back in Arizona, is drifting away. He's busy meeting his new girlfriend's parents.
Right, so Ilsa has literally no one to call who can ground her.
Exactly. By removing that support system and by trapping her in a bitter Montana winter, the setting itself becomes an active antagonist. The physical cold of the cabin mirrors the emotional coldness she feels toward her father's memory.
Which makes her entirely vulnerable for what happens next, because this psychological excavation we're talking about suddenly turns into a literal physical mystery.
The genre shift.
Yeah, it shifts gears from a quiet drama about grief into an active, dangerous puzzle.
And the catalyst for that shift is the encounter on the frozen lake.
Right. The scene with Jerry. Ilsa is out on the ice, already feeling totally unmoored, and she runs into this old man.
Jerry is so creepy in that scene.
He really is. He has these clear blue eyes and a completely blank expression. And he hands her a letter that her dad wrote months before his death. And Jerry doesn't just hand her the letter. He shatters the official narrative. He tells her point blank that Ike's death wasn't an accident.
But look at the text of that letter, though. It's entirely cryptic. It's written in a rushed, messy, all-caps scrawl, which, if you remember the meticulous, methodical nature of Ike's napkin lists, is a very jarring contrast.
Yeah, it's frantic.
Very. The letter reads, "Find the atlas, and the key to truth is beneath the tap dance."
I love the mechanics of how this clue gets solved, because, in a lot of thrillers, the protagonist suddenly becomes a master cryptographer.
Oh, right. Like they suddenly know ancient Latin or something.
Exactly. But here, it's beautifully grounded in family history. Ilsa has this tense, casual phone call with her mom, who famously hates Montana, by the way, and her mom just offhandedly complains about a memory.
The tap dance class.
Right. When Ilsa was 2 or 3 years old, a temporary dance teacher came to town, and Ike used to push all the furniture out of the living room so Ilsa could practice her tap dancing.
What's fascinating here is how the author uses a seemingly throwaway maternal complaint to unlock a physical space. It's a perfect psychological trigger.
It totally recontextualizes the cabin. Ilsa moves the coffee table. She finds a floorboard with 2 notches cut into it, perfectly sized for the claw of a hammer.
And she pries it up.
Yeah, she pries it up. And beneath the floorboards, she finds the real artifact of this reverse archaeology, a hidden leather journal.
And the contents of that journal are what truly bridge the gap between a family drama and a thriller. It's not a diary in the traditional sense.
No, not at all.
Yes. It contains a heartbreaking letter to Donnie, which gives Ilsa the emotional closure she's been searching for. But it also contains bizarre, winding line drawings covered in tiny numbers.
And all those weird lists.
Right. Columns of capitalized lists that are vastly different from the grocery lists. Things like buck knife, license, chisel, mirror. And crucially, it has newspaper clippings glued to the pages about the state taking over the local ghost town of Garrick.
Which completely validates the prologue of the book. We all remember the legend of Garrick that Ike sent Ilsa right after he died.
Such a great piece of world building.
It really is. Back in the gold rush days, vigilantes stole a wagon of pure gold from a notorious gang. But instead of returning it to the authorities, they hid it for themselves.
And it didn't end well for them.
No, it did not. The angry townsfolk figured it out, hanged the vigilantes before they could spend a dime, and the location of the stolen gold was buried with them in their unmarked graves.
This is where the narrative architecture really shines. The author blends this rich historical lore with the present-day stakes of Ilsa's survival.
Yeah, making the past feel incredibly dangerous right now.
Exactly. Ike's conspiracy theories, which the entire town dismisses, aren't just the ramblings of a grieving, lonely man. They are the breadcrumbs of a historical treasure map.
So good.
And this forces you to constantly evaluate reality. I mean, is Ike suffering from dementia or grief-induced paranoia? Or is he actually a genius who somehow found the legendary Garrick gold?
And that ambiguity is what makes the next section so stressful, because Ilsa is trapped with these terrifying clues and she's forced to interact with the town of Dalton.
Right.
You'd think a small community would rally around a grieving daughter, but instead, Dalton acts as a hostile ecosystem that just amplifies her danger.
Honestly, I'm struggling to understand why she stays at this point. Like, if the environment is this toxic, the logical move is to pack up the journal and drive back to Phoenix.
Well, that's the brilliance of the psychological trap. She can't leave because leaving means admitting her father was crazy, and the journal suggests he wasn't.
So that's true. But by staying, she enters a pressure cooker. Let's look at how the town reacts to her presence.
It's remarkably aggressive. She takes a miserable day job as a temporary high school math teacher, mostly just to have a reason to leave the suffocating cabin, but she is instantly hated by the students.
Yeah, they do not hold back.
They really don't. She gives them a test on material they were supposed to know from the previous semester, and almost everyone fails. She becomes public enemy number 1. A cocky senior named Paul Johnson literally calls her a bitch to her face in the middle of class.
Unbelievable.
And her boss, Principal Harlan, threatens her job because the parents are furious.
And it's not just the school either. The hostility permeates every level of authority. Sheriff Cosi Raynes shows up in her classroom, not to investigate the strange old man on the ice or her claims of feeling watched, but because his own son, Spencer, is failing her class.
Right, and he might get kicked off the basketball team.
Exactly. The law enforcement in this town is entirely focused on maintaining their own internal status quo.
So what does this all mean? I mean, she gets no peace at work, no peace at home, so she decides to take herself on a quote-unquote date to the local dive bar, Trick and Sully's.
As one does.
Naturally. The bartender, Trick, is friendly enough, but he casually dumps more of Ike's crazy theories on her. Stuff about bull sharks in the lake and underground bunkers on the island, and then physical violence starts.
The bar fight.
Yes. A dangerous out-of-town railroad worker named Jackie blocks her path, tries to intimidate her, and it instantly erupts into a massive bar brawl. Punches are thrown, furniture is smashed, and who walks through the door to break it up? Cosi Raynes.
Of course.
He commands the room, takes Jackie down, and handcuffs him effortlessly.
It's a classic romance trope, really. The hyper-competent, protective alpha male stepping in. But look deeper at the sociological mechanics at play here.
Yeah, I mean, what is the underlying logic of the town's behavior? Is Dalton's hostility just your standard cliquey, small-town insularity, or does it serve a specific narrative purpose?
I think it's very intentional.
I have to wonder, is the town's collective dismissal of Ike as crazy actually a defense mechanism? Maybe there are people in Dalton who know exactly what Ike found, and writing him off as the town lunatic is just the safest way to keep their own secrets buried.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the town is acting as a macrocosm of Ilsa's internal conflict. Everyone in Dalton thinks they know exactly who Bluebird was, just like Ilsa thought she knew her dad.
Right, they put him in a box.
They rely on the narrative that he was a harmless, sad old man to keep their worldview intact. But that bar fight, the hostile parents, the aggressive kids, they all prove that Dalton is hiding incredibly volatile undercurrents beneath its quiet, snowy exterior.
Just bubbling under the surface?
Yes. Just like Ike's cabin was hiding a secret journal beneath the floorboards, the town itself is deceptive. Ilsa's presence threatens the established order, and the community instinctively attacks the foreign body.
Which brings us to the breaking point. The town's psychological pressure and the literal clues in the cabin finally collide. It explodes into undeniable physical danger, and it proves to Ilsa and to us that she hasn't been losing her mind.
The flashpoint. Up until this moment, the author has kept the threat somewhat ambiguous. Ilsa has been plagued by a recurring nightmare, or, well, what she hopes is a nightmare.
Oh, this part is so scary.
She keeps seeing a figure in a black ski mask staring at her through the dirty cabin windows.
Think about how you feel when you hear a weird noise outside your house at night. Now imagine you are utterly alone, miles from help, and you actually see a masked face in the glass.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying. She calls the sheriff's office, and Cosi and his deputy Larry come out to investigate, but they dismiss her completely. They chalk it up to nosy neighbors like Sue Ann or Robert Aaron.
And they have a seemingly logical reason for dismissing her, too.
Right. There are no strange tracks in the snow. The only footprints around the house match Ilsa's own boots, because she's been wearing Ike's old boots to shovel the pathways. They assume she is just seeing things and working herself into an isolated panic.
Which is an incredibly effective form of gaslighting, even if Cosi isn't doing it maliciously.
Yeah.
He's a man who relies on empirical, physical evidence. And the physical evidence says she is alone.
But she's not.
No. The author uses Cosi's pragmatism against him and against Ilsa. But the climax of these source excerpts destroys that pragmatism entirely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The tension in this scene is phenomenal. Ilsa is in bed, agonizing over the journal. Suddenly, she sees the silver flicker of a flashlight bouncing against her bedroom wall.
So cinematic.
She drops to her knees, creeps out of the room, grabs a kitchen knife, and looks out the window. And she watches as her father's shed is entirely engulfed in roaring flames. It's an undeniable act of arson. You can't gaslight your way out of a burning building.
Exactly. The psychological thriller elements instantly give way to visceral, physical survival.
Cosi gets called out in the dead of night. The firefighters put the blaze out, and Cosi finally starts a real investigation. He finds a metal gas can, but more importantly, he smells something specific. Fresh diesel.
And not just regular diesel.
Right. Not just any diesel, but dyed diesel, which is strictly used for heavy equipment, not for the fishing boats the locals usually use. He follows drops of this dyed diesel into the dense brush, finding a hidden path that the stalker used, and in the untouched snow beneath the tree, he finds a single perfect boot print.
This is the physical evidence he's been waiting for. But look at what that evidence actually is.
Yeah, because the stalker's boot print exactly matches the size and horizontal tread of Cosi's own boots. The irony here is brilliant.
It's so clever.
Think about the mechanics of the stalking. Earlier, the stalker used a tread that perfectly matched Ike's old boots, allowing them to walk right up to the windows. That essentially framed Ilsa, making the cops think she was just seeing her own tracks. Now, the stalker is wearing boots that match the sheriff's. The villain is literally weaponizing the footprints of the two men who are supposed to protect Ilsa, her father, and the law.
That is a phenomenal observation, and it highlights the sophistication of the antagonist. The stalker is meticulous, actively manipulating the physical environment to ensure the evidence either incriminates the victim or mimics the investigator.
It's a total mind game.
It completely destabilizes Cosi's reliance on empirical facts. And the trail of those prints just vanishes onto the windswept ice of the frozen lake, leaving absolutely no path to follow. This raises an important question about the structure of the narrative itself.
How so?
Well, the author has now definitively moved us from a quiet psychological drama about a daughter mourning her estranged father into a full-blown romantic suspense thriller.
Because the dynamic between Ilsa and Cosi completely shifts right here. After the fire, he finds her sitting in Ike's truck, freezing, desperately trying to get the engine to turn over. She is exhausted, crying, and totally defeated.
She's just hit a wall.
Yeah. Cosi realizes he was fundamentally wrong to doubt her. He apologizes. And because her truck won't start and the only motel in town is closed for the winter, Cosi makes a unilateral decision. He refuses to let her stay at the cabin. He packs her into his Bronco and takes her to his own home to sleep in his guest room.
He officially steps out of the role of a detached, skeptical investigator and assumes the role of her protector. From a literary standpoint, this action is the bridge.
Oh, merging the genres.
Exactly. It connects the suspense plot, the arson, the stalker, the gold, with the romance plot.
Oh.
It forces this isolated, stubborn heroine and the rugged, defensive sheriff to finally drop their professional walls and team up under one roof. They are now literally cohabitating with the mystery.
It is the perfect narrative bottleneck. So let's zoom out and recap the journey we've just taken. We started with a young woman in Phoenix who felt guilty about ignoring her dad's letters. She comes to Dalton and starts sorting through empty soup cans in a dusty, freezing cabin.
And a lot has happened since then.
Oh, yeah. And where do we end up? Arson, a secret journal hidden beneath a tap dance floorboard, a handsome sheriff offering her sanctuary in his home, and a 19th century ghost town treasure that someone in Dalton is actively willing to kill for today.
It escalates with such precision, constantly narrowing the walls around Ilsa until she has no choice but to fight back.
And for you listening, why does an analysis of this fictional story matter? Obviously, you probably aren't currently hunting for vigilante gold from the 1800s while dodging a masked arsonist.
Well, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. But this story is such a powerful, amplified metaphor for how we deal with family history. Have you ever avoided looking into the messy parts of your parents' past?
Oh, that hits close to home.
Right. Avoiding that history, ignoring the letters, staying away from the hometown, pretending the complicated parts don't exist, doesn't make it disappear. That history just waits in the dark until you are forced to face it. You cannot outrun where you came from.
You truly can't. You have to excavate it layer by layer, no matter how chaotic the debris might be.
Which leaves us with one final lingering question to ponder based on a very quiet detail hidden in the text.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
There is a moment during an argument when Cosi tries to comfort Ilsa about her dad's death. To relate to her, he reveals something deeply personal. His own father died 20 years ago in what was ruled an accidental hunting shooting.
Such a specific word choice.
Right, yeah. Accidental. Now look at the board. Ike has died in an accidental drowning, and someone is burning down Ike's property to cover their tracks. It makes you wonder, are these two tragic accidents, separated by 2 decades and 2 different families, actually connected by the lost gold of Garrick?
That is the ultimate puzzle piece. If the town's secrets go back 20 years, or even a century, how deep does the rot really go?
We will leave you to chew on that. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the stories hidden beneath the surface. And remember, sometimes an archaeological dig in a messy cabin turns up a lot more than you bargained for. See you next time.